Welcome to the International Leadership Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Joe Beauchamp. I am your host. I'm also the founder of Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions. We help businesses to grow their leadership teams because we know that better leaders produce better results. Well, thank you for joining us for this leadership podcast. Today we have Adam Holbrook as our guest, and let's get started with this podcast. Well, welcome to the International Leadership Podcast. My name is Joe Beauchamp. I'm here with my special guest today, Adam Holbrook. Adam, why don't you greet our audience?
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Joe. Excited to be with you. Excited to talk about my journey, talk about leadership, and talk about many different facets of personal development. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. This is our first, well, it's really our second podcast, but the first time that I'm actually leading this and having a guest on here. So forgive us if you're watching this. It always kind of stumbles through the first time anyway. So, and this is a leadership lesson for everyone. You kind of always mess it up the first time, so you might as well just get started and get the blunders out of the way. So let's see how it goes today. And
fail our way forward.
Yeah. We're going to probably look back at this a year from now and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that. But if we didn't do it today, when would we get started with it? Right. So Adam is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for, not even, maybe even 2 years now, over a year, a little over a year, maybe a year and a half now, I guess. And we're both Maxwell leadership speakers, trainers, and coaches. We both like to speak. We both like to motivate our audiences. We both like to smile and engage our audiences with good stories. I just want to say that Adam's also an author, which he's ahead of me on that. I've not yet finished any books yet, but we have Adam's book here. One of his first books, Character Evolution.
Character Evolution was my first one. Yeah, that's a book about overcoming self-sabotage, conflict resolution, and managing difficult people. Joe, do you know any difficult people?
I have to raise both hands that I am the difficult person.
Oh, you are the difficult person.
I am a difficult person. Yeah.
I'm a recovering difficult person, but every now and then I'm a little difficult.
Yeah. Everybody. Right. So the things that you refer to from the book are their life for every single person. Like, I don't know anybody who does not deal with conflict, with their own thoughts and whatever's going on inside their head, dealing with difficult people, being a difficult person. So I like to say that everybody is two people. We're person A, which is the calm, peaceful version of ourselves, like Bruce Banner, that prefrontal cortex version of ourselves, where we're the best version of us. And then we can also be person B when we're emotionally triggered, right? So PTSD or trauma or anything that really goes on in life that gets us stressed out, we become this different version, kind of more like the Hulk version. I call it version B. We get a little green around the green in the eyes and stuff. And so I'll just speak for myself. When I get emotionally triggered, I am a difficult person to deal with. You can ask my wife. You can ask really anybody around me. So it's really just a matter of managing that.
We can't control the other difficult people, but we do have the ability to respond differently to those difficult situations, breathe through them, to work through our own emotions when we're dealing with those difficult people. And the way I like to look at it is our character. Our character isn't determined by who we are on that good day, because it's very easy to be, like what you're saying, it's very easy to be that good person on a good day. But who we are on that bad day when life is against us, that's when our character defines us. And not saying that I'm a perfect model person. We're all a work in progress, but each time something comes up, I'm just trying to be a little bit better than I was last time.
That's awesome. And I would say that is evident. I don't know you from back in your more hulky days, but I do know the version of you now, and I think you're a really good person. So hence being here with us today. If I really want to focus when we talk on the show, and this really goes forward on any of our broadcasts, and that is usable strategies that the audience can take away. So somebody can listen to this and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm a little bit of a difficult person, or maybe I'm dealing with a difficult person at work, or maybe I'm married to a difficult person. Maybe I have teenage kids, and we all know if you have teenage kids can be difficult at times. So can you give us even just one or two tips, some pro tips in how to manage our own emotions and how to respectfully work with somebody else that's going to be honoring to them and help them to calm down their emotions?
Well, let's talk about boundaries. And I talked about this at your Live to Lead. Boundaries were often misunderstood. They're not walls to keep people out. They're doorways which we choose when to open them and when to shut them. And I said at your Live to Lead that we don't have, if we shut everyone out and create walls around everyone that's ever hurt us, we're not going to be left with anyone. We're all making mistakes. We're all going through this thing called life. And if we're going to cut everyone out, we're not going to be left with anyone, right? But it's about how to create those boundaries. And when creating a boundary, we should never ghost the other person. That's how I used to run my life. I used to ghost people. If Joe did me wrong, I'm done with him. And I would just completely ghost him, and Joe would be confused and he wouldn't know exactly what to do. I don't recommend ghosting. I recommend letting the other person know about your feelings, but it should never be about what they did wrong. Because if it's about what they did wrong, they're going to come on the attack about you. Should use an I statement when creating a boundary, something like, I understand how you could feel that way, but it's not a road I want to go down. Or I'm working on my own feelings right now and my own mental well-being, and I don't want to go down that road with you. And then two things happen after creating a boundary. One is somebody respects your boundary, or somebody pushes back on those boundaries. And when you push back on those boundaries, it's like we want them to understand it. I mean, it's clear as day and they don't get it, right? It's clear as day to you. And then all of a sudden you try to explain it to them because you want them to see it from your perspective, but they don't seem to see it from your perspective. And as hard as you're trying, you got to release your ego and the need to be right. And as soon as you let it go, that's when you gain the power back. So boundaries are not walls. They're doorways, which we choose when to open them and when to close them. One thing I need to make clear, boundaries are not for you and your wife, Joe. They're not for you and your wife. If you and your wife are struggling, you can't create boundaries around your wife. You got to get it right with your wife. And one of the things that me and my wife did when we were struggling through our marriage at one point is we do the 10-minute drill where I speak for 10 minutes uninterrupted. She just sits there and listens to me. And if I don't have anything to say, Joe, I just sit there. We sit there in peace. I always have something to say though, but sometimes she may not have something to say. And we'll sit there in quiet. And after the time is up, I understand how you could feel that way. And then we switch roles. And I got to tell you, most marriages aren't about the kids, the problems with kids. It's not about finances. It's lack of communication. And this simple drill defines and helps move the feather forward with you and your spouse. What do you think, Joe?
So I just want to, let me just ask you, I think you're bringing up great points, and I haven't done that with my wife, that 10-minute drill. I think maybe we should start trying to do that, see how it works for us. But let's go through a scenario. This is something that's common with me. And I tend to say things that I just really wasn't thinking about, or, maybe I was trying to be funny or something like that. And I end up saying something rude, and I insult somebody, or I offend somebody. Right. So let's take the scenario that you're the recipient of that. I've said something rude and I'm oblivious. I really have no idea that I even offended you. So how would you handle that? Like, what would you do from the side of, the receiver, the person who received the offense?
If somebody is pushing my buttons, right, I have to ask myself, number one, if it's worth it, right? Because people say things that are off the cusp and they sometimes don't mean what they said. And I'm going to ask myself if this is something that I want to hold in or this something matters to me. And if it's not something that matters, I let it go. Like the car that cut you off on the road or the comment that somebody just accidentally said, I'll let that go. It's not that big deal. But if it truly matters to me, I'm going to let the other person know how I feel, but I'm not going to raise my voice. I'm not going to belittle them. I'm not going to argue with them. As soon as you do, it all falls apart. And that's when grudges happen. And when you know you made a mistake, forgive yourself, number one, and also forgive the other person as well. Apologize for your actions. It's always important to do that. And I know so many people that are holding grudges for 10, 20 years. And the only reason I know all this is because I was a professional difficult person, Joe. I was a professional difficult person for many years. I know all the strategies. Like I know how to be difficult. I know how to be extra difficult. And I also know it's like when you're dealing with somebody that's recovering from something, you want to talk to the addict. Well, I was that addict for a difficult person. And when you're dealing with a difficult person, you don't want to come back and start pushing their buttons more. It's not worth it, right?
Right.
Delay your emotions. Your emotions need to be in check, right? Because there's never a good scenario that comes out of that reaction. I know it's easier said than done. I was at my daughter's basketball game a couple of weeks ago, and the referee made a really bad call at the championship game, which may have cost them the game. And I'm like running through the scenarios. Well, this does matter to me. I need to let him know he made this mistake right now.
So what'd you do? Did you tell him?
I let him know I don't agree with that call. And he said to me, one more burst out of you and I'll throw you out of here. We're all a work in progress.
If I rewind time back, like, I don't know, even maybe 20 years now, I was working for a major corporation and I really wanted to do a good job. And I was really enthusiastic. I was gung ho. I'm talking to people. I'm gathering information. I was on staff. I was a pencil pusher. I gathered information, created reports, and, reported to people whatever was going on out in the field. This was one of the jobs I was in. And I had heard that from one department, their claim was this other department isn't really doing their job as well as they're supposed to be doing. And because they're not really doing their job as well as they're supposed to be doing, that's making it difficult for this other department, right? So I don't want to give too many specifics on here, even though it's 20 years ago and nothing's even the same anymore. But anyway, so I'm talking to the VP and I mentioned this to her and she's like, oh, really? And she writes it down. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. Like someone's getting in trouble for this. So now I'm a low level manager and she's the VP. And so there's a couple levels in between us. And so she calls the director who's overseeing that department that I just accused of not doing a good job. Now, these people who I didn't even really talk to. I don't really know them very well. All I know is that this other department claims that they're doing this, right? So I bring it up as though it's fact because I don't know any better. I'm young, I'm foolish. And so she calls this guy out on the carpet for trying to clean up his whatever was going on. And I don't really know the reality. I don't know if any of the claims were justified or not. I know now my tendency is to believe now that everybody's trying to do a good job. Everyone's doing the best they can. Everyone's encountering challenges and everyone's doing the best they can to overcome those challenges. I don't believe that people are being lazy or they're purposely, crashing things, things happen. But I honestly truly believe that everybody's really trying to do a good job. So this other district manager, we had just been through like this sensitivity training for the company. And it was talking about expressing your emotions to people. So he comes over to me, he comes over to my desk and he basically just dumps on me. Like he just has like an emotional dump out on me, telling me how he felt about this whole thing. And then he goes, oh, I feel so much better. And he walks away. And I'm thinking like the picture I have in my head is like, he came to my desk, he just took a dump right on my desk. And of course he feels better. And then he walks away, but I'm left with this dump on my desk, you know? So, you know, like
Man.
how would you handle that? How would you say, if you're a manager, you have to, you know, somebody on your team or somebody on one of the teams out there, like he could have fired me, honestly. Like he could have just been like, you're out. I didn't work for him. I wasn't in his downline, but he was high enough that he could have just swung the axe. But how would you say, you know, what should a leader really do in a scenario like that?
What a fantastic story and well articulated. I like the idea. First of all, I'm not saying like a lot of these difficult situations are happening during the day, and we need a release, right? We need to let other people know. A lot of times people are like, oh, you know, we need a release. We need to let other people know. But what I recommend is the 3-minute drill, right? Because what happens is we become victims of our own world if we allow this stuff to go over and over in our head and replay this, where this situation happened, Joe, and now he dumped on you, and now all of a sudden you have this on you, and you could just take that and like just ingest it for a very long time, and it could affect you. So I like the 3-minute drill. The 3-minute drill is find somebody that you love, somebody that you trust, and you can tell them all about this situation. Set a timer. After that 3 minutes is up, this is over. It's done. And unless something new occurs, a new situation develops, it's done, right? So you had an opportunity to voice your concern, tell everyone how you feel, this person how you feel, and then it's over, it's done. Because if not, if you don't cut yourself off, you're just going to be a victim your whole life. Now, also in this situation that you were talking about, the missing piece is connections. And I'd love to talk about this with you, Joe, because I think you're a fantastic connector in Long Island. People love you. Is that when issues come up, if you have a great relationship with others around you, the situation is not going to manifest into a massive problem. You create relationships first. Number one problem I see new leaders making is they come in with all these great ideas, and all these other leaders, they come in with all these great ideas, and they may be great ideas, but if the team doesn't like you, if the team doesn't know you, they're not going to get behind you.
Right.
The relationship comes first,
Right.
and then comes your ideas, your vision. So, I mean, in the situation where you had, I would just recommend, how could you have handled it differently? If you could ask yourself this question 20 years today, from 20 years past, how would you have handled it differently?
So from my perspective as the recipient of that, I was clearly wrong, and I'm pretty sure I apologized at the time. I think I was mostly just in shock, and a little bit thankful that I didn't get terminated at the time. I would, if I could rewind, it would have been to be more deliberate when I had that conversation with the VP. I just took one side of the story. And I think this is kind of what happens today. We see this a lot today. You hear something and you just take one side of the story and you run with it. And that's what I did. I heard from one department who I had a relationship with, this other department's these are the bad guys over there. They're not doing their job. And I went, oh my gosh, they're not doing their job. As opposed to thinking like, they probably are doing their job, but this is normal, right? So like, I'm sure that if I go to the other side and I ask them, hey, what do you think of those guys over there? They're going to say, they're not doing their job. If they only did their job, our jobs would be easier. And these guys are saying, if those guys over there could only do their job, our jobs would be easier. And that's every company everywhere. I wasn't aware of that at the time. I am aware of that now. And so let's just let the audience know that just because, you know, you work in a company or an organization or a school or wherever you're at, you know, we always blame, you know, the other people. The school teachers are blaming administrators are blaming the teachers. The, you know, operations is blaming sales is blaming operations. No matter where you are, there's always this, you know, foreign group that lives by a different, you know, kind of set of rules. They have a different title, and they're always the culprit. They're the ones that are wrong. We're of course right. Like we have our own belief system, and we're the good guys, and they must be the bad guys. And that's not really how it goes. Because if you just jump on the other side of the fence, it looks completely different from the other side of the fence. So I think I would have taken what was said to me with a grain of salt and thought, you know what, let me go talk to them. You know, I've talked to the one side. Why don't I just talk to the other side? and just get a real, just get a real balanced approach to both of this. And then the other thing is just be careful what I say. If I'm talking to a VP, just be careful what I say. Why, don't throw anybody under the bus. That's not my job. I'm not there to be throwing people under the bus.
And Joe, let's let the audience know, this is what we do for work. We go into companies and we change the culture. We 100%. Go in and we don't come in and say, hey, look, we know all of this, right? We go in with vulnerability. We do activities, connection activities to get the staff connected, getting to know one another, connecting on common ground. A lot of times we're in a position of leadership and we think that we're the best, we're the smartest, the strongest, and everyone should listen to us. That was my mistake in my first business that I sold. I'm so grateful to be able to sell that. Was I was the boss and they were on my time and I owned them, right? And my life was spiraling out of control and got me suicidal because of that. And I got to tell you, I needed to recognize that I needed to connect to my people. I needed to connect with my people on common ground, not my beliefs, not you need to listen to me because I know best, but just listen to them. Sometimes it's about taking ourselves out of the center and placing the other person there. It's not about us, right? Yeah. Because think about when people like you the most, it's because you're asking about them. So in a difficult situation, I would doubt that difficult situation would come up if that relationship was there. If that really established relationship was built, whether it's ongoing leadership training, culture changing programs that we offer, or it's just doing every Friday for an hour, getting to know sessions with your staff. That is going to be the difference between an organization that thrives and one that's constantly plugging holes, like my first organization. When I started figuring this out, it was after I sold my first company, and then I built a second company on the concepts of leadership, and I built that business into 3 states. So I understand what it takes to be a good leader, and leadership isn't a cut and dry, one size fits all scenario, right? And we all make leadership mistakes every single day, but we just try to be a little bit better and be aware of what we're about to say. Like you said, think before we react, right? Think before we say something. That's one of the things that we can do, but also try to always think about how the other person would feel too, because there's always 2 sides to a story. And that's one of the stories I told at your Live to Lead event was when I was walking, I practiced my morning walks. I practiced my speeches on my morning walk. And then it starts raining.
I love that story. Go ahead and tell the audience.
It starts pouring rain. I'm halfway through my morning walk and I take my shirt off and I wrapped it around my cell phone because I had to keep my cell phone dry. And I stick my cell phone in the shirt in my front portion of my gym shorts. And I'm like, there's nothing I could do, Joe. I'm going to just start talking to myself. I start talking to myself in the pouring rain. And then a guy starts following me on the road. And he eventually called the police on me. The police pulled me over on the sidewalk and they're like, what are you doing, man? And I'm like, oh, thank goodness you're here. That guy right there, he called the police on, he's been following me. Yeah. It's like, he called us on you. He saw a mentally deranged individual with no shirt on and talking to himself. And he thought my bulge was like a weapon of some sort. The story illustrates that there's 2 sides to every single story. And although it's clear as day to us, and it makes perfect sense to us, and it's probably completely logical to most people, it may not be logical to them. And you could do one of 2 things. You could react, or you could express your feelings, but not without that reaction. If it means something to you, you could delay your emotions. One of the things that I was doing forever was reacting, and I was blame holding on to my feelings, right? If Joe did me wrong, like, oh, Joe, you did me wrong last year. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, no, everything is good now, Joe. And then all of a sudden you do something else wrong. I'd start stockpiling the stuff that you did in the past, one on top of the other in today's world. But I got to tell you got to let it go. We got to be able to let it go, recognize that forgiveness is about ourselves. We're forgiving for ourselves, not for the other person, and recognizing that we all make mistakes. We're all growing in this thing called life.
Right. Yeah, we call that a list, right? So when somebody does something wrong, we bring up that list of every past sin that they've committed.
You make yourself miserable. I'm miserable. They're miserable.
So one of the exercises that I'll often have people do is to write out the list. Everything that anybody has ever done or said to offend you, parents and siblings and teachers and kids when you were little, and the bully and coworkers and your boss and everyone else, spouses, and just list out all the offenses and just write it out on paper and then burn it. Burn the list, right? And once it's burned, it's gone. Like it's gone, it's forgiven, never to return again, right? It's just gone. Do not bring it up. Do not talk about it. Don't think about it. Do not relive it. That's really the key here is we get emotions. Like something happened a year ago that emotionally traumatized us. And we've relived that experience 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times in that past year. And it's like we relived the experience. It's like that person did that same offensive thing to us that 1,000 or 1,000,000 times over. We've re-experienced the emotions. We've gotten stressed about it. It's released cortisol in our brains. And the ability to forgive and just leave it, to detach emotion from the event, to consider that event was like I watched it on television. It wasn't real. It doesn't have any effect, and I no longer, I can recall I can recall the specifics as though I'm telling you about a TV show without any personal emotion tied to it. And that means it's gone, it's forgiven, right? And so that list burning activity is a great way to just release it. Like just, it's gone. The list is burned.
Now, if this doesn't mean you have to hang out with them every single day or you have to go back to what it was, right? You can still love somebody at a distance. I love a lot of people at distances. And if I see them, I'll still hug them. I want to attract myself and be around the people that inspire me, the people that are positive and supportive toward me. And if those other people aren't, I can still love them. I can still set boundaries on them and allow myself to still love them. But, sometimes you may say those are your family members, like close family members. And I would say to you is, what's a good boundary? Well, it may be calling your parents on the road to pick up your kids for a 15-minute drive instead of, giving them endless time on the phone when you arrive to pick up your son at school. Hey, I got to go. Or instead of showing up for the party for 4 hours, just showing up for an hour and say, hey, I have another obligation. I got to run on you. Small things like that.
So I think, when I think boundaries, I think about being mission focused, right? If we're focused on the purpose for our life, saying a no to somebody or limiting time or exposure to somebody is the ability to say yes to our purpose and our vision, right? We're on a mission. I am too busy making an impact in this direction to be drawn aside to the left or to the right for distractions, right? So everybody gets a little bit of my time. Not everybody gets a significant portion of my time. Only people that are mission focused, that there is value, there's return on investment, do we spend time with. This applies to family, friends, and this applies in the workplace as well. A lot of times, and here's the big mistake that a lot of people make, you have employees or people on your team, and we spend the most time with our weakest people. Meanwhile, our best ROI would be if we spent a little bit extra time with our best people. And so what I generally say is this: if you have 10 hours and you have 5 people, instead of giving everybody 2 hours, right? That's simple math. Everybody's equal. Everybody gets an equal amount of time. No, everybody gets 1 hour, and maybe 2 of your people get the extra hours because they're the ones who are going to actually grow from the investment of that time, right? Same thing with a stock portfolio. If you had a bunch of ways to invest your stocks, and this one gives 3% and this one gives 20%, let's shift a little bit more money over to 20%, right? So it's the same with people. Who am I going to invest that time with? The people that are going to give it the most return on that investment of time.
And if you don't have those good people in your life, because this was me for a while, one day I decided that I wanted to be this good person and I didn't want to live like that anymore. I didn't have anyone good that I could make myself attracted to, because it gets lonely. It gets lonely sometimes when you don't have those good people in your life. Continue to work on yourself, because as you continue to work on yourself, those people start showing up.
You might be the person that that's not in their line, right? Because you're not mission focused. You're a distraction. So, and I've had people in my life.
It's easy to go back to that toxic relationship. It's easy to go back to that old employee because you know what they do, right? It's easy to go back to that stuff. But is that going to actually take your personal development, yourself to that next level. In the most cases, it's no. But then you've got to ask yourself, were you the one that actually made this situation happen like this?
Right.
Continue to work on yourself. I'm grateful for my wife. My wife was so far ahead of me when I first met her, and I was holding on to victim's mindset. My world was falling apart, and I didn't really appreciate anything. And to be honest with you, I didn't appreciate her. I didn't appreciate anything. And she was getting so many wins in her life. And I watched a a presentation, and the keynote speaker starts talking about gratitude and having this massive gratitude for others, and it will actually change your world. And I said to myself, this woman, this girl, that my future wife, she's going to leave me if I don't start pretending to be grateful, as this keynote speaker said. So I started pretending to be grateful, which led to some wins, which led to me being more grateful, which led to more wins. And it doesn't mean that your life is perfect when gratitude is there and you're pretending everything is perfect. But when you have an attitude of gratitude, good becomes better, bad isn't quite as bad as it once seemed. Keep working on yourself. The good people, the people that need to grow you, the people that will inspire you, they'll start showing up as you do.
Let's just talk a little bit about the way that you described pretend. I pretended to be grateful, right? And so, we get the fake it till you make it mindset. And there's a lot of pushback that people have. Like, I want to be my authentic self. And I just want to say that, for me, there are times, if I think about this dichotomy of who I am inside my head, right? There's the calm, peaceful Joe Beauchamp, person A, I'm my best self. And then there's person B, who's emotionally triggered. I get angry, I say things, I do things. And so sometimes when I'm that person B, I have to remind myself, even though my brain is screaming to me that this is absolutely 100% correct, this is the right course of action, I have to think, if I wasn't emotional right now, what would the calm, peaceful version of myself be? Or what would the calm, peaceful version of myself do? What would I say? How would I act? Even though I don't feel like that right now, I'm going to fake it. I'm going to pretend to be the better version of me, because tomorrow, when I'm calmed down and I'm no longer hulky, right, and I'm back to calm, peaceful version of myself, who will I have wanted to be when I was upset, right? And so that pretending, right, it's not pretending like I'm pretending to be somebody who I'm not. It's I'm pretending to be the better version of myself, the person who I won't regret being tomorrow.
I love it. I love it. Gratitude is one of the greatest things that we can do. We do it in the long car rides with the kids. We go around the table for holidays, or when we're doing presents, we say what we're grateful for before we light the candle of Hanukkah or celebrate Christmas. We celebrate both holidays. We're always doing gratitude. I like to look at gratitude as the change, right? And there's 3 different levels of gratitude too. And I don't want to make this about lists or anything like that, but there's a low level gratitude and then there's a high level gratitude. And this is the difference between just surviving life and thriving in life. The lowest level gratitude is having gratitude for physical items like money, your house, your car. People that have consistent gratitude for these physical items usually have lots of friends, because they're more concerned about how they look on the outside than who they are on the inside. And that's a great way to get started into being grateful. But if you stay there, it's going to lead into constantly chasing the next money, chasing the next car, chasing the next business, that idea, right? Then that's the first level. That's going to get you kickstarted. Then we have the middle layer of gratitude, which is gratitude for existence, our breath. Gratitude for the snow falling. We've gotten a lot of snow. The snow falling, the
A lot of
trees
gratitude right
swaying.
there.
People that have consistent gratitude for their breath and for these features are usually really content in life, but they also struggle with purpose. And that's why the highest level of gratitude that's going to change your life is having gratitude for others. Being grateful for your parents that have taught you through their wrongdoing the right actions. Being grateful for Joe bringing me on his podcast today, being grateful for your wife that does so much, that supports the family, and my wife that's cooking dinner for my kids that have meets tonight. That is the highest level of gratitude. And if you want to change your life in the next 30 days, it's about not just being grateful, saying that you're grateful to those people. And I would suggest to all of your listeners to, when we get off of this call today, to write a text message, call, email the people that you're
Don't
grateful.
wait. Do it now.
Do it right now. Do it right now. Pause this thing right now. Pause it. Right, 3 people that you're grateful for. Joe, I want to hear 3 people that you're grateful for, and I'm not one of them. Go ahead. And what and why? And why?
I am grateful for my wife because she stood by me through some very difficult times. I'm grateful for God, really, for standing by me through the most challenging times and all the times of my life. I think of the footprints in the sand, and during those difficult times when God carried me, so you're familiar that, with my story. My son passed away in 2016. So it's going on 10 years now that he's been gone. And that was a very traumatic time in all of our lives. And we still deal with the pain of that. And God carries us through that. And I'm thankful for the time. I'm thankful for the time that I had with my son, Alexander. I think that was one of the things that kept me from really fully losing it. And I was thankful that God gave me the gift of my son for all those years that I had him. And that was the gift, spending that time with him. So what I would say to anybody, and listen, everybody's lost a parent, a child, a sibling, a spouse, everyone's dealt with some kind of trauma and loss in their life. And if I could just tell you one thing that helped me, and that's be thankful for the time that you got to spend with that person. I would not give that up for anything in the world. And if I could, I play a story in my head where, hypothetically, if God were to sit down before me and say, listen, Joe, you can have Alexander as a son, but you only get him for this many years, or you just never have him at all, I would choose to have him. So I would take that. And I think that gratitude, you're right. So I guess the third person I want to be grateful for, I'm grateful for all my kids. I'm just going to lump all of them into one. I'm grateful that God has blessed me with children. It has been the most fulfilling part of my life, is to be a dad. I feel like I identify as a dad. When my kids are not around, I kind of feel like parenting other kids. It's kind of a weird thing. Like, hey, let me give you some parental advice or something. I just really am. I feel like that's part of who I am. I'm a dad, and I'm just really grateful that God has blessed me with this much life and this many good experiences, and the good and the bad. I think about some of the painful experiences in life as being it's just part of the picture, right? So if I paint a picture, it's got lots of different colors. Some are light and some are dark. If I took out all the dark colors, the picture would look drab, right? If I cook food, some of the spices, if I just taste the spice by itself, it doesn't taste very good. It's very bitter, right? If I eat a piece of garlic or taste a piece of pepper, it's not good. But if I mix it in with that food of life, it seasons the life. And I think that's our painful experiences in life. They're part of this bigger, really beautiful image of life that includes pain and it includes happiness. And part of, I know this is not even part of gratitude, but part of, the acceptance of the pain and the acceptance of the happiness. I give myself permission to feel sad and to feel down sometimes. And I give myself permission to laugh and to enjoy and to really love life, even with the pain. And it's okay. So, all right, with that, I'm done. I spoke a lot. So.
First of all, I've said it before. You're an all-star human being to overcome something like losing your child and just being grateful for them. And when you're going through this exercise and being grateful for your wife and your kids and God and the time that you got to spend with your child, I got to tell you, you were sparkling. You were sparkling. It felt like everything. I don't know how you were before we got on, but that's that feeling, right? We're faking it until we make it. It's not, call it what you want. Some people argue that point, but when you start really paying attention to our lives, we're so grateful to actually have life today. And sometimes we may not get all the business that we want. Sometimes we may not have all the accounts that we want. But let's look at what we can control and be grateful for, because what would that gratitude do to you and your wife's relationship? What would it do for you and your kids' relationship? When we start trying to change other people, we're really not accepting them for who they are. And we all just want to get through this life and be who we are, our true authentic selves. And that's one of the things that I'm most grateful for my wife about. She allows me to be me. I'm like, wow, that is the coolest thing. I've never had that before, Joe. She lets me be me. I'm like, wow, this is cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what are the other two? Who are the other two people that you're grateful for? Your wife?
My wife, my two beautiful children, Tenley and Trent. Tenley is just so smart and talented, great at basketball. My son's so great at basketball too. They bring life into this house. They really do. And God is definitely number one, really. In reality, God is number one, because when I was in my darkest moments in life, I reached out to God. He didn't always answer, and he didn't always give me the what I wanted, right? But he was always there. And although sometimes I didn't like his time frame, I didn't like the answers that I was getting in life, he actually was listening. And if you don't believe in God, my gut is telling me to tell you right now to ask for God to show you a sign. I got to tell you, God has given me more signs. When I'm on the edge and ready to kill myself in my car, drive it off that cliff that night, my dad calls me. The guy that I wasn't speaking to for 2 months on Christmas Eve calls late. We never talked at that time. And he tells me he loves me. Like, the only way I can explain that is that God reached out through my dad's voice that night, and he told me he loved me. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. And my brother, who had just had his first child, reached out to me, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. And he said to me, he goes, "What year was that?" And I go, 2005. And he said to me, "That's the year that my first son was born." And he goes, he putting the blame on himself for my life spiraling out of control that year. And I said, "That wasn't on you." I said, I needed to spiral out of control, and I needed to hit rock bottom. Rock bottom to me was like the miraculous place, because it was that place where you stop caring about everyone and everything. And then all of a sudden, you don't care about your business anymore. You don't care about your health. You don't care. And then you just feel like a sense of freedom. Like, I can just move somewhere new and start fresh. And that's next day when I woke up on Christmas Day after crying myself to sleep in my car that night. I post my business on this random website, and I sold it 4 months later for $220,000. It was like God didn't give it to me right at that point when I wanted it, but he needed to humble me. He needed to show me the lesson. He needed to just keep saying to me, keep pushing through this, because life is hard. And there's no doubt about it. We're going to have trauma in our life. We're going to have people dying in our life. And we still have to move forward in our life. And we have the opportunity to move forward positively or negatively. And you get to choose your life.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad that God did reach out to you through your dad, and that you're here today, and you serve a mission in life. Like, there's a purpose. There's people's lives that are better because you've had an impact on them. You've influenced them. Let's just take a quick moment and just jump a little bit into some leadership stuff. I want people to understand that, leadership is not for somebody else, but that I don't care if you're a mom, I don't care if you're a kid, I don't care if you're in high school, I don't care if you're the lowest level, you clean toilets, or I don't care if you're the CEO of a major, global corporation, or you're the president of some country. Everybody is a leader. Everybody has an influence on the world around them. And really to embrace our ability to move life forward 360 degrees around us, the people that are in those positions around us, that are in our world, that we can have an influence on them to move them in some kind of direction. So so give us your thoughts. If you were to define leadership, what comes to mind?
How we lead ourselves first. We have to lead ourselves first. Just because you're the person in charge, just because you make a ton of money, how you show up every single day matters, because you'll cap off on your own. You can only go so far on your own. But as you continuously work on yourself, meaning taking care of yourself, self-care, having fun, social emotional skills like we were talking about, doing all of those levels, that's the first step. Now you're able to lead other people, because if you, and don't get me wrong, we're all a work in progress, right? We're not going to get this perfect all the time. We're going to work on ourselves. And after we work on ourselves, then we can lead others. And when we lead others, the first step is connecting to them, connecting to people. Leadership is influence, as John Maxwell says. Leadership is influence, and influence is our ability to connect with other people. And in order to connect with other people, it's not about sharing your stories back and forth. It's not about, being better than the other person or winning in a championship. It's about elevating everyone around you and making it all about them, giving credit away when you win. Even if you had a lot to do with that, give that credit away. And when you fail, take ownership of it, even if other people had to do that, right? It's always comes back to us, right? Every frustration we have is an opportunity to get to know ourselves better, right? So if something isn't going right in our lives, we have to ask ourselves, why is it not going right? And we need to take ownership. How can I lead better? How can I lead myself better?
What would you say are some of the most, if you were speaking to, let's say, a young leader, or maybe somebody who's dealing with imposter syndrome, or somebody who wants to become a better leader, what are some of the basic, like, if you just say some of the basics? If you ever talk about connecting with people, one of the things I like to say about connecting with people is, literally, I say the statement to them: if it's important to you, it's important to me, right? I think that's the best way that I could show somebody that they are valuable to me. Whatever you think is important, I think is important. I'm going to value everything that you value, right? So, so what are some of the other tenets? We're going to build connections with people. We want to help our teams to win. What would you say are some of the basics of, if I'm developing myself as a leader, what are some of the basics that I want to touch base on?
I like replacing the word should. I don't like the word should. I think the word should is a command. It's a shutdown. It tells another person how to be. Joe, you should do this on your podcast, or you should do this, or it's your wife's birthday. You should buy her flowers. Oh, you and your mom are fighting. You should write her a letter and apologize, and replace that
shooting
word
on people.
Right. It's like, better than everyone.
Right.
And instead replace it with the word could. Hey, Joe, you could do this on your podcast. Your wife's birthday is coming up. You could buy her flowers. You could write a letter to your parents to apologize for what you did, and ask questions. Guide them to figuring out the problem on their own. A lot of times, our job as a coach, a leadership coach, is we ask good questions.
Right.
And questions are guiding the other person to figuring out the problem on their own. That's step one, right? Just taking that. If you could take one thing from today, well, take a lot of things from today. Today was awesome. But eliminate the word should. And then, I don't know if anyone's ever heard this before, but I define it as Me Too moments, as in the same thing happened to me too. For example, I like to give, a friend of mine recently ran into Bill Clinton at a dinner. And she was
too.
at
No, I just right.
She ran into Bill Clinton, got a picture with Bill Clinton, went up to him, started talking. Well, me and my wife also ran into Bill Clinton. But as she's telling me this is happening, if I said to her, me too, I ran into him, me too, then what would that have done to her story? It would have diminished her story.
Yeah.
It would have said, your story isn't that good because the same thing happened to me too. Let her have it. Let her have that moment. Like, eliminate the need to a lot of times we think that we're going to connect to other people by sharing something similar that had happened to us. But in reality, it actually blows an opportunity for a connection.
Yeah. That's, so many of the things that you've said today keep reminding me that one of the key, what I would consider to be the number one character trait of a good leader is humility, right? To allow my team to win, to allow the other person to have their chance to have a story, to value the people that are on my team, to be humble enough to apologize, to value whether it's important or not, to address it or not. All these things are about humility. Let's deflate my own ego. It's not about me. I'm really not that important. Not in a negative way, but I'm just not that important, right? I'm one of 8.5 billion people on this
You're
earth.
very important.
Thank you.
You're a world changer, in fact.
I am a world changer, and so are you, and so is everybody that's listening here, right? We're all world changers. But to think that I'm overly important, that I'm somehow more important than another human being, that's when it gets into ego. And when I'm trying to defend my ego, that's not being humble, and that's not building, that's destroying. And nobody ever looks at a good leader and says, wow, that person's really arrogant, I love him. Like, nobody says that, so
yeah.
But so humility is one of the key, I think, is one of the key character traits. And humility is a skill that can be developed. It's a character trait that can be developed. It's not easy, and it's usually very painful. And I will tell you, anytime that I say something or do something that's humiliating, and that happens somewhat frequently, I put my foot in my mouth, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I have to just eat that, because I embrace humility, and being humiliated is humbling. So I'll take it. I just take it in. So what? Good. All right. So here's a big question. We're just about out of time, and we're starting a new conversation, which is big. And I just want to pose this question to you. Let's just say, theoretically, hypothetically, if you had unlimited resources, right? So finances were not an option. Good people, you had them all at your disposal. What would you want to do? Like, what would be the biggest impact? Like, how would you live out your mission on this earth if you could, you could do it? Like, I have a checkbook. I'm just going to write you a check I'm going to Zelle you unlimited funds. I've got thousands of people that can do. They're super talented. What would you do with that?
I feel very fortunate the way my life is right now. And I wouldn't change anything that I'm doing right now. I want to find ways to serve more, right? Serving makes me feel best about myself. So although sometimes people ask me to serve in ways, if it's got to meet my mission, right? It's got to meet my mission and where I'm at, and ways to serve and be able to give back. Because when I can do that, I feel the greatest about myself. And for me, that's working with kids. I love working with high school kids. High school kids are amazing because they're in the bullying stages. They're trying to find themselves. They forget who they really are as a person at that very young age. So giving back to them, letting them how they handle their own emotions, because we put these masks on in life and we try to hide the person that we truly are. But if we can get back to our true, authentic selves, because a lot of times we were afraid to, we're an adult, or we mask our feelings through drinking alcohol or drugs or other scenarios. But when that's just a mask that we put on not because we're weak, but because we're exhausted from being all these places at the exact same time. But what if we can get back to that person that we were, that we still are? That's what I want to do every single day. I want to be able to help people be their true, authentic selves.
So would that be getting into all school districts, speaking to all students, somehow having a platform?
I want to, yeah. So Ray, I want to be guiding teachers. I do classroom management. I teach the teachers how to get the kids to behave in the classroom. I teach social emotional learning through workshops, through different outlets. I teach leadership training to school principals. I do work with organizations as well. I do keynote speaking at conferences. I get to live my dream. And what I want to do, one of the things that I would say, one of my greatest my greatest weakness is I don't know how to take my foot off the brake. I just keep going and going and going. I'm working like I was before when I had my cleaning business and it was suicidal. I'm almost in giant fear that I need to be always working and need to be serving, because I told God when I was in my car that night that I didn't want to be here anymore. And when I lived the next day, that I want to thank him, and I want to be able to empower other people, and I'm going to spend my life doing so. But in that whole messiness, I stopped taking care of myself. I stopped I just kept working because I just felt like I didn't earn to have fun. I didn't deserve to have fun. I didn't deserve to serve myself and exercise or do anything else for myself. I just felt like I was always I felt like I've been here because I need to be serving. So you got to take care of yourself first. And I still struggle with that. I'll be honest with you. Like I struggle with it because I want it so bad. And when I want it, it's for other people. It really is. But I feel like I have so much to give, and I want to be able to find that spot where I can serve 5 days, 6 days a week and just give.
That's awesome. That'd be awesome. I think you do give a lot. And I would say, one of the things that was really freeing for me, because I was with my foot, nonstop on the gas pedal, doing the same kind of thing, working overnights and, nonstop and wearing myself out. And one of the things I learned that was life transformational, it was, you just can't do everything. It's not all going to get done. Stuff is going to fall through the cracks. It will fall off the table. You cannot get everything done. So knowing that, it's time to start picking the stuff that you're going to purposely push off the table, right? It's not all going to fit. It's going to fall off. So it's important we take every area of our life that deserves attention, our mental health, our physical health, our relationships, spouses, kids, other family members, our communities, churches, religious organizations, nonprofit organizations, volunteer time, all the things that are important to us, including our finances and our job and our people and all those other things, right? And we think about, hey, what is the most important thing that I can do to add value to this part of my life? If I did that, if I separate my life into all these little components and I prioritize the most important 1 or 2 or 3 things that I really need to do to show or really add value, what's the highest ROI that I can get with my kids, right? So if spending time with my kids is important to me, what do I want to do in that time that I'm spending with my kids? If I only have an hour, do I want to waste it, or do I want to use that hour to squeeze the most value out of that hour with my kids? So I think living life that way, spending time, what's the most important value that I can give to my mental health, and schedule in time every day to focus a little bit of time on mental health, something like a gratitude exercise. What's the most important thing I can do for my finances? What's the most important thing I can do for my physical health? Maybe it's going for a walk or going to the gym or doing something, whatever it is, eating healthy food, right? It doesn't take any time to not put junk food in your mouth, right? It's a lot easier. I know you're very disciplined on the food that you eat, right? So there's always an opportunity to do the most important things for family, friends, health, mental health, as well as work, career, finances, future, stuff like that. When you do that, you'll find that stuff is falling off the table, but it's not the most important things.
I love that advice. That's really good advice. And the only thing is, I'm a work in progress. I just don't know what direction. Sometimes you choose multiple different paths, right? You choose multiple different paths, and you say you're going to work on this. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe I'll try this path too, right? So what works and what doesn't work, and then move on, question yourself, like, evaluate, is this working? Is this not working? Where should I be spending my time most? Right.
Yeah. Hence this podcast today.
Yeah.
we probably neither one of us probably have time for it, but we put it in the podcast anyway. All right. Another book, How to Give the Best Speech Ever by Adam Holbrook.
It's a tip book. Yes.
It's tips. Yeah. So I just want to read something here that I opened up. Tip number 42, harness love and laughter to overcome fear. So I love that. And that's when I train people on how to speak, that's that's my answer to people. Always say, how do you overcome the fear? How do you overcome the fear? You love your audience and you have fun up there. I always tell them, tell an embarrassing story. Just get it out. Rip the
Joe,
Band-Aid off.
I shouldn't say this right now, but I really want it. If I'm a little nervous before I get on stage, you know what I think about? We have we have a cleaning lady, and she comes in every other week, and it makes me laugh, but she cleans the bathroom and then she actually uses the bathroom, and it just like it makes me hysterically laugh. I don't know why, to the point where I'm hysterically crying, Joe. Like, and everyone thinks I'm weird because it makes me laugh so hard. I don't know why, but anyway, I think about that right before I go on stage.
If you can make yourself laugh, listen, having fun, going back to where we started from earlier, enjoying life is a gift, and allowing ourselves the opportunity to have fun and enjoy life and just be at peace with life. Like, I'm accepting the bad, I accept the good, and I allow myself to feel the pain, and I allow myself to be happy, and I will do things to make myself happy, because fun is part of the blessing of being alive and enjoying the gift of life. And so, if we can just tell everyone in the audience, just, have some fun.
You don't need to earn fun. You don't need to earn fun.
You need to earn fun.
You don't need to earn fun. You don't have to accomplish enough, make enough to have fun, because when you have fun, everything changes. The world around you changes. Opportunities come because people like dealing with people that can have fun.
That's awesome. All right. So that sounds like a great conclusion to our podcast. I think we broke over the hour mark. I think I'm not sure, a little over an hour, but Adam, listen, how do people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Right. Well, first, you can purchase my book, Character Evolution, or How to Give the Best Speech Ever, on Amazon. If you like it, which you should love it, go ahead and give it a 5-star review. And you can find me on LinkedIn, Adam Holbrook. You can find me on Facebook, Adam Holbrook. It's Adam.Holbrook, HOLBROOK.12. There's a picture of me up there. Let's be friends. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, all those social platforms. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you all. And if you like me, then just follow me and I'll follow you back. I love you all.
All right. I love everybody too. Adam, love you too. Send love to all your family, and to our audience. We just love and appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed this podcast today. If you do, please like and subscribe and comment below. Reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer any questions or follow up with you or anything like that. And go ahead, Adam.
Are you going to have music when the podcast stops, like doom 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 doom, as we leave the podcast? I
don't really know. I guess we'll figure that out. So so audience, we thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Well, thank you for joining us today on today's episode of the International Leadership Podcast. Again, my name is Joe Beauchamp, your host. You can find me at beauchampteam.com. That's my website. And you can email me if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast. We will be interviewing business leaders from around the country and around the globe. If you'd like to be a guest, email me at info@beauchampteam.com, and I'm happy to answer your questions and welcome you as a guest on our podcast. See you next time.